So I have categorized Pilates now into different pillars of health, and that's fitness, fuel, and fun. And what I appreciate about this, it takes the pressure off of just workouts, that they take time away from the mat to enjoy their life. And even when they step on the mat, it's how is this benefiting me? Am I enjoying my practice? So not only is it effective, but is it enjoyable? Because we know if we don't enjoy something, we are not going to stick with it. So I really encourage people to find the pleasure in what we do, both on the Pilates mat and off.
Welcome to Linda's Corner, where we bring more hope, healing, and happiness to the world. My name is Linda Bjork, and today we're going to be talking about finding joy in the face of challenges. I'm delighted to welcome Beth Sandlin. Beth is the founder of Trifecta Pilates. She is a Pilates and yoga teacher, health educator, former university assistant director, and adjunct professor. She is also a cancer survivor. You can reach Beth at her website, trifectapilates.com, and I'll include a link in the show notes. Welcome, Beth. I'm so glad that you could join with me today.
And I'm so thrilled to be here.
Thank you. And I am so excited for this conversation. And I have to tell you that as I was checking out your website, there was a picture in there that just intrigued me. And it's an image taken when you were in your cancer treatment. And so if you look, you can see the hospital ID bracelet on your wrist. You can see that your head is shaved. You can see that there is a port tube in your neck and the most radiant smile. And when I saw that picture and you see just this contrast of what is obviously a very scary, terrible situation, and yet the joy that you expressed, I just thought, oh, I like this person. I want to get to know her. And so would you mind, can we start with your story and how you were able to have this beautiful smile in spite of the things that you were dealing with?
I think a large part of it is always focusing on what we can do. And especially with cancer, there's a lot that we can't do. We're told, I have to stay in the hospital. My treatment is going to impact my hair loss. And you can't eat certain foods. Anyways, that was my journey for my cancer treatment. And even at the time, I didn't have language to say, oh, I'm focusing on what I can do. But that's really what my journey was about. Simple act from when they brought me in my pills every day, I would count them to make sure it was accurate. And yes, one time I did catch a mistake and I just asked a question and it was just a mistake that was made, to shaving my head, which is the picture that you referenced, because as people who go through cancer, depending upon treatment, of course, hair loss is quite common. And it got to be a point where it just didn't feel good anymore to shed the hair like it was. And so that picture was taken right after I called my sister crying, I can't stand this anymore. Can you please drive up so that you can shave my head? And she did. And it just felt so liberating because, again, it was focusing on what I could do to make myself feel better. And that's something really that my family instilled for me in a very young age. Again, not by using those words, but just by having conversations and leaning into that.
That is so amazing. And what a beautiful thing. So now I have a little bit more insight into the story and what took place right before that photograph was taken. And it was, to shave your head for women, a lot of times our hair is like our pride, our joy, our glory. And to have it shaved off and to feel joy, like, wow, I did something. I did something. So what I can do about it, what I can do, even in a situation where it feels like, for many people, it's like, well, I can't do anything because this is totally out of my hands. But something as small as counting pills, as saying, hey, it is time to shave my head. These are little things where I do have control. I do have power. And even to the power to, not only did I count those pills, but I swallowed those pills. This is the power that we have. And every time we recognize our power, I feel like it just grows. And if it grows in real life, that's awesome. But for sure, it grows in our mind. And we feel not so helpless. We feel empowered. So beautiful. Amazing. All right. Well, we have lots of things to talk about. And one of the things I would appreciate is you teach Pilates and you were greatly influenced by Joseph Pilates' book called Return to Life. And I think many people, they think of Pilates as an exercise. They don't realize that it has a history and it's more than just an exercise. Would you mind kind of sharing a little bit about what you learned and about what Pilates is and why that influenced you?
I would be happy to. And when I first read Joseph Pilates' book, Return to Life, I was primarily focused on the second portion of the book, which was learning the exercises in more detail, and kind of skimmed through the first portion, which is more of Pilates as a holistic lifestyle, which is very interesting considering I have a degree in health education, which fits very nicely with the first portion of the book. And for so many years, I would say the first half of my career, I've been teaching Pilates for 20 years now. It really was separate, like health education, knowledge about health, and then Pilates workouts were something different. And it wasn't until I read his book the third time that something just finally clicked. Oh, Pilates is more than a workout. And it brought together my background and degree in health education, now health coaching as well, and also the physical aspect of Pilates movement, which was incredibly helpful. And the reason why is when it comes to Pilates or any workout that we do, sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves to do the exercise the right way or to make sure we get all of our workouts in. But inevitably, life is going to get in the way with flows, with a consistent practice. And when we step back from just focusing on workouts, we realize there's all these other elements that we're doing, both maybe big elements and very small elements like getting to bed on time, drinking water, eating, having social connections with other people. So I have categorized Pilates now into different pillars of health, and that's fitness, fuel, and fun. And what I appreciate about this, and for a lot of people who work with me as well, what they like is it takes the pressure off of just workouts, that they take time away from the mat to enjoy their life. And even when they step on the mat, it's how is this benefiting me? Am I enjoying my practice? So not only is it effective, but is it enjoyable? Because we know if we don't enjoy something, we are not going to stick with it. So I really encourage people to find the pleasure in what we do, both on the Pilates mat and off.
Wow, I love that. And it is so refreshing and delightful to have someone who is an expert at fitness, an expert at this is how to do a workout. And the main focus is, are you having joy? Are you having a good time? Is this nourishing you today? Is this nourishing your body? Is this nourishing your mind? Is this what is benefiting you today? Are you having a good time? Because I think most people feel like, I would love to have joy. I would love to have more joy in my life. I would love to have more happiness. And I would like to have more health and fitness too. I mean, we all want that. But sometimes the idea of thinking, but I gotta go to the gym, I gotta do a workout, and it's gonna be hard because only workouts that are hard benefit me and do me any good. And I have to get through hard stuff if I have to, I guess. And then it can do good things for our discipline when we do hard things and we continue to show up. But I love that that's not what it's all about, that it is about joy. And I know you mentioned again on your website, sometimes when you're in this place of recovering, some days you have a good day and maybe you can do a good workout and feel like, because there is joy and satisfaction in feeling like I did something hard. And then there are other days when, I don't feel very well. I would like to show up for myself, but I don't have a lot to give today. So would you kind of share a little bit about when you were going through that, what a good workout day might be look like and what or look like and what a I don't feel good day workout might look like?
100% that so often when we think about workouts, it's always has to be long, has to be challenging. And I came from that mindset as well. And for many years, even though I was teaching Pilates and all about workouts and health, I would have time spans when I wasn't working out as consistently. Specifically, when I transitioned to working full time, all of a sudden my schedule was much different and I just couldn't consistently fit in harder workouts or longer length workouts. from a time management perspective, and also my nervous system was just in a different state. So whether someone's recovering from some sort of physical condition like cancer, or just they were ill, or because we are living, a lot of us, in a constant chronic high stress environment, our nervous system may need something different besides a very long or very challenging workout. Yet I still held on to the notion, oh, I'm just not motivated to work out today. And when I took a moment to pause, what I realized was my body was just simply saying I needed to do something different than what I had on my calendar. And for this particular day I'm referring to, was going to do a high intensity spin class followed by a very vigorous Pilates workout. I saved those types of workouts usually for Monday. That's usually when I have higher energy days. I have the weekend to rest. And what I realized is I don't have energy. Well, why is that? Well, for the past month and a half before that, I had been going to my kids' activities on the weekends, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. So my weekends weren't as restful as they were a few months prior. And once I had that acknowledgement, I was able to shift gears and say, okay, well, I can still work out, but rather than that very challenging spin class, I'm going to go on just a nice, gentle bike ride. Rather than that very vigorous Pilates class, I'm going to do something more restorative. And that aids to consistency. It helps our nervous system. And we're working different elements of physical conditioning as well when we work with sometimes higher intensity workouts compared to less vigorous workouts. So they're really beneficial on a lot of different elements for our overall being of who we are.
I love that. What a beautiful way to find balance, to be able to continue with your consistency, to show up for yourself and listen to yourself. Listen to your body. What do I need? And by allowing that flexibility and saying, hey, I am going to do a workout today. I said I was, and I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do something that matches what I need today. And how smart you are to recognize that when we have maybe different phases in our life, or even just different seasons, different whatever, not every the thing, life is not exactly the same all the time. Sometimes we have more high stress things that are coming on, and to give ourselves a little bit of a break and say, this is where I am and this is what I can do about it. Back to what you said at the beginning. What can I do? What can I do? Well, I had a busy weekend. I did mom things. I was supporting my kids. I was showing up for them. I did a good job. Pat myself on the back. I don't need to carry any guilt and say, oh, well, I can't do this spin class and this super hard workout. I did a good job. I'm still doing a good job, but it's just going to match what I need. So I love that. And I think if that idea is just broadcast, then more and more people will feel like, oh, well, then maybe I can do this. Because sometimes we don't want to step into the world of exercise, of working out, of showing up for ourselves, because we feel like it's going to be so hard and such a time commitment that I really can't fit it in. But if I can be flexible, if I can recognize that I do have other demands on my life, and I have permission to make it fit my life right here, right now, then maybe I can. And I think having that hope is so important to make that first step, because yeah, it's just hard otherwise.
100%. And for those of you who are listening who maybe were like me, in middle school, I tried to wiggle out of gym class every single opportunity I could. I just really didn't resonate with being good at physical activity. It was actually really embarrassing for me to do gym class. Even though I loved going to my dance classes, I didn't think that was exercise. We weren't really taught more of a holistic, broad perspective of what workouts can be, everything from dance fitness to, yes, more traditional workouts. And once I started enjoying working out pre-cancer, it was, oh, I actually can do this, but it's at my time, my pace, not what works well for someone else, and definitely not comparing my journey. And then the cancer comes along and it just really throws me a curveball where when I get back into working out, I can't even do a push up on my knees. Like I thought I'd be able to go back in the gym and just start right away. I don't know why I thought that, but I went down to do a push up and I literally just stayed down on the floor. Could not push back up whatsoever. And I know a lot of people experience this. It's humbling to experience that. And for push ups, for a lot of people, I know they can resonate with like those can be incredibly challenging. But I also know from my personal experience and working with so many people over the years that if we focus on the options that work well for you, both the length of time, the individual exercise variation, the pace of class that you enjoy, that you will build your strength and stamina rather than kind of popping into a longer length class. And I'll never forget, I went to a class with a colleague of mine. It was a full length class. And afterwards, the next day, she goes, that wasn't that challenging. Why am I so sore? And I asked her, well, when's the last time you worked out? Well, it's been a few years. Is our body and mind remember what we used to be able to do, even if it was 10 or 20 years ago. And sometimes we just start a little bit too quick and too soon. And what that will do is reshape the narrative I can't. And so I always encourage whether it's we're getting back into working out after some time off, it could be vacation, or we just haven't prioritized workouts for some time. Start slower than you think. And for me, what I personally did, it was I'm starting 10 minutes. It was 5 minutes of Pilates with 5 minutes of walking. And I went down to my basement, walked back up after 10 minutes. My husband said, is that it? Yes, because I knew I wanted to be consistent. And to be consistent, I had to focus on very slow and very short in the beginning. And I did that until it felt very comfortable in my routine. And then I just adjusted that up a little bit. And sometimes today I'll still adjust it way down and go back to something that's more restorative and shorter in length as well.
Wow. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate so much some of the things that you shared with different experiences in your life, talking about being in junior high. I hate gym. I don't want to go to gym. That feeling of I don't want to do this. And you also shared the idea or the experience of recovering from cancer and physically being unable. So you've covered, I don't want to, and I can't. And to go from both of those places and then to become what you have become is so inspiring. So, anyone who's listening who feels like, I don't want to, or I can't, Beth can say, I've been there. I've done that. I understand. And I also loved when you talked about in junior high, I hate gym. I don't want to go. I don't want to do a workout, but I love dance. And we don't even recognize that the things that we enjoy count as exercise. And if we think about children, children don't air quote exercise, they play, they run around, they have fun. And they don't call it exercise, they call it living joyfully. And sometimes when we become adults, we forget how to live joyfully and to move and to enjoy. And then we put it in a little box and say, now we must exercise, which means being suffering and miserable and doing things that you don't want to do so that you can have positive results. And it's really no surprise that when we come at it from this kind of an angle, that we're just not that excited to do it. So you have given us this beautiful message from so many different angles. You can do this and it can be joyful, and let's make it joyful. I just appreciate it so much. Now, if it's okay, you talked a little bit earlier about working with the nervous system. And I know that one of your specialties is trauma informed Pilates and being able to use this as a tool, not only for every person who just wants to be happy and joyful, which is all of us, but also it is a very beautiful tool to help us be able to recover from traumatic events. So can you explain a little bit about what that is and how you got involved in discovering this tool?
Trauma-informed Pilates, well, any type of trauma-informed framework, whether it's Pilates, yoga, other types of workout in maybe more of a therapeutic setting, is really acknowledging how pervasive and widespread trauma is and understanding how that impacts us as individuals and also interpersonally, our body, our mindset, how we move, how we exercise. And what we want to do is give people more autonomy and power and control over their own experiences. And that's really, I think, very helpful when we're considering workouts as well, that it's not just follow this workout program, because for most of us, maybe we've tried to follow a workout program and it worked for a short period of time, but it doesn't work for the long term because it doesn't let us make adjustments based upon how we're either feeling, time, and a whole host of other factors. So I came into this work when I started working at the university. And at that time, I was having conversations and collaborations with different offices and organizations that I just wasn't having prior to that when I was focusing on teaching Pilates exclusively. It was really with my work with the Interpersonal Violence Office that there was a greater recognition of the prevalence of interpersonal violence. And we were just starting to embed more understanding of trauma overall. And the deeper I got into learning about trauma, the more my definition expanded. The more I realized it's not simply about interpersonal violence. And I also had a deep personal understanding. Oh, well, I have experienced trauma as well. And I didn't realize that for me, my cancer experience, that I actually had some PTSD from that, never diagnosed, but it definitely had some triggered responses many years after the fact. And that understanding was so helpful for me personally at the time. We were also doing trauma-informed training at the health clinic I was working at the university. And I thought, well, if we're doing it at the health clinic, what happens if that person walks out of the health clinic and comes to one of our mind body fitness classes, comes to one of my Pilates classes? Don't I want them to have a positive experience in this setting as well as at the health clinic? So I started researching and evaluating more what that means from a movement perspective. And not only was it really empowering for my personal way of moving with Pilates, but I noticed that as I started shifting my approach and techniques in teaching Pilates, that it was really empowering and liberating for people who were moving with Pilates. They weren't always trying to do the exercises exactly like I was. They were starting to lean more into the variations that were more optimal for them. And we talked about the nervous system prior. And so the same pathways are used for response to trauma, stress, even exercise. And so that's why maybe if we are primed due to chronic stress or trauma response to be more in fight or flight, we may want to do more of a down regulating workout, something a little bit more soothing. Or if someone maybe is more leaning towards a response where there's disassociation involved, which is really common with different types of trauma, and also as a response to stress. So it's not just the fight or flight, very energizing. It could be just kind of zoning out. Way that is really common is we have almost likely daydreamed. That's a form of disassociation as well, not as extreme as some of the disassociation we can see with trauma, that we may want to engage the body in a slightly more vigorous way. And I'm just talking, we turn the dial of intensity up just a little bit or just down a little bit. What happens is the more we understand about our own nervous system and how we're responding to our life currently and maybe what has happened in the past, we can play with our workouts and start to see when we need something that's going to kind of bring our energy up and when we need something to bring our energy down. Because one element that for far too long was focused on is down regulating. We need to focus on deep breathing, meditate, slow classes. And as beautiful as that experience is, it does not work for everyone. And it's only one way in which our nervous system works and responds. And so we really want to be able to have kind of more of a fluid nature with our nervous system as we are moving not only through everyday life, but also with Pilates or any type of exercise.
Wow, that was so amazing. I just want to cheer. So, some of the things that I picked up as your insight about what trauma is. we have maybe some preset ideas of this is like a violent encounter. This is something like this. And well, I haven't had that. But we also to be able to recognize that it is our experiences, whether they be physical, mental, or emotional, or an interpersonal, a relationship, we can have things that really stress us and really cause us some internal pain. And to be able to open up our eyes and be able to say, I'll be darned, that applies to me too, is, I think, very helpful because I believe self-awareness is a very crucial element in order to be able to heal from anything. And I also loved how you talked about how this beautiful, beautiful system of Pilates can help with trauma. And there's a book, I'm sure you're aware of it, called The Body Keeps the Score by Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. And in this book, he's been so helpful in just increasing the awareness of people of how we can effectively heal from trauma. And he talks about a top-down approach, which is what many people think of when they think of, oh, that means I need to have therapy and have counseling, and I need to talk to somebody and talk it out, which is a wonderful way to help to handle trauma. But Dr. Van der Kolk also talks about a bottom-up approach, which is more somatic. It's using our body because the trauma is literally trapped in our body. And by moving our body and using our body, it actually helps to release and eliminate some of the effects from our traumatic event, which is so beautiful because you mentioned that not everyone responds the same. Like calming things down might work. And for other people, increasing and doing a little more might work. And isn't it wonderful that we have more than one approach so that we can find what works for us? And how beautiful that you have become aware and be able to share this information with other people. And I'm just so delighted. I think the more that we become aware of the tools and resources that are available, then the more likely we are to use those tools and then access the healing that we need. So I appreciate you so much. Is there anything else you want to make sure that we cover before we close today?
I think this was such a lovely conversation. And I hope what it does for people is encourage them, whether they want to try Pilates or try something else, to just keep experimenting. And something that I'll share a personal example is when I first started yoga, I despised it so much I didn't go back to it for 10 years. And now, even though I move with yoga, I'm a yoga teacher, that's more of my side note. Pilates is my main thing. And I bring that up because not only has this happened for me, but I've known other people as well, specifically with movement, where they'll be in a phase of like for a year, CrossFit works really well, and then they kind of move on to something else. So sometimes something will work for a really long time, other times really short. And if you tried something in the past, be open to trying it again, either with a new style of moving with it or a new teacher, because it might just be a better fit a little bit later on.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing all those little insights. I love people who are real, where it's not, I'm perfect, so everyone should do it perfectly like me. It's, you know what? I didn't like this, and this part was hard, and I figured it out. Because I think that's where most of us are, is we're in the process of figuring it out. And it's so refreshing for people to say, you know what? I had to figure it out too. And here's what worked for me. So maybe this will work for you. And if not, try something else. So, Beth, I appreciate you so much visiting with me today.
Thank you so much for having me on.
It's been a pleasure. In closing, I'd like to share a quote by Beth Sandlin. She said, "Honor the past, look forward to the future, embrace the present." Today, I invite our listeners to embrace the joy in the present. See you next time on Linda's Corner. Thanks for listening. Please share and subscribe to help us reach new listeners. And if you'd like to heal your life from the inside out, there is a free video series at hopeforhealingfoundation.org. Just click on the free stuff tab. I also invite you to grab a copy of one of my books, like Crushed, A Journey Through Depression, and You Got This, an action plan to calm fear, anxiety, worry, and stress. See you next time on Linda's Corner.